Ladies, it is time to reinvent ourselves. We are not going to get stuck in a box. Let's talk about it. Hey, ladies, how are you? Welcome back to the podcast. Y'all, it's time to reinvent ourselves. Black women, we are not going to sit back, be in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, and sit back and just take what it is. You can reinvent yourself at any time of your life. And life can be beautiful after 40. Let me tell you, it might be a little struggle because we're going to go through some stuff. You go through your stuff in your 20s, your 30s, 40s, and beyond. But that's just going through stuff. That's not the overall of you. So let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about it. But before we talk about it, let me not jump too fast. Before we talk about it, how are you? How are you doing? I'm doing okay. You didn't ask, but I'm telling. But no, for real, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Where you are at the moment. We are in some times, aren't we? I mean, I don't want to get political or anything like that, but if you've been watching the news, you've been watching the news, okay? It's just a lot going on, but we will prevail, we will get through it, we will move on. But in saying all of that, your girl has been a little bit busy. I think I mentioned it in a few episodes prior before in regards to your girl's working on an ebook. Who does she think she is? Yes, working on the ebook. Something nice, cute, and simple just to kind of refresh you and give you something to, you know, put that mojo back into you. That's what I want to do. I want to provide value. I want to pour into you. I want to pour into myself. So whatever I'm doing, to give to you, I'm giving to myself as well because I'm growing and learning just like you are. But Black women, it's time to reinvent yourself. Life after 40 can be beautiful. Let's get into it. Okay, life after 40 is not the end. I know some people say, oh, she hit the wall. She hit the wall. No, you ain't hit no wall. You have hit a point where it's about to get great. Okay, that's what that is. That's what that means. It's like new beginnings. I feel like not just in your 40s, but even in any decade that you go into, your 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond, you know, it's like new beginnings. I feel like I am closing up a chapter in my life, writing it out really, really well, putting my citations in, quoting all my references. You know how you do a paper and you got also at the end of your paper. That's what I feel like I'm doing right now for my 40s. I feel like I'm just closing off this chapter in my life and I'm doing it well and it's feeling really good. I'm not going to sit and say times before weren't a little shaky, but I feel like things are just looking a little bit more better. So, in saying all of that, I'm going into my 50s soon. Not quite yet. I got another year. But in saying all of that, I could just feel the change and I could feel that, it's getting better. We all have good and bad moments throughout our life. But yeah, I don't want you to feel like you're stuck. I just want to provide you with the scenario of me, of like how I feel, what I'm going through right now. Like I mentioned, it's like I'm closing off a college paper that I'm doing. Like I said, I'm writing my reference page, I'm doing my citations, I'm getting all my references together. I'm doing all of it to close up this chapter. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's not, you don't do it in one day. You do it over some time. But that's where I feel this last year, I'm just pulling everything together so it all can make sense to me, you know? And so what I want to also talk about is like, I want to encourage you. I want you to understand that reinventing yourself is about growth. And you're not starting over from scratch because you got some grit in this game. You know what I mean? So you're not starting from scratch. You're just starting over, turning the page. Think about a notebook. And I shouldn't even give this example because I'm the first one to tear a page out if my notebook is messy. I could be a little OCD when it comes to paper goods. Okay. If the notebook is getting raggedy, I'm tearing pages out. I don't like bad pages, and I don't like bad penmanship neither. So, in saying all of that, think about it as you have a book. You've been writing in this book. It's how you like it. You've been highlighting. You've been scratching out. You've been doing all the things. And now you're getting ready to turn the page, put a divider in, and you starting something else. That's all. But everything else is there, and it's there to be references and lessons and things like that. So let's get into it. The power of reinvention, the power of it. Like, we first want to talk about this, and I'm just going to rattle this off. We want to address our fears and the myths about, being over 40, what they say, like I mentioned earlier, you hit the wall, you go through menopause, nobody ain't going to want you, which is a lie. Um, all these different things. But, you know, whatever fears you may have, like when you get in career, oh, I'm too old to do this. Gotta let the new blood come in. Yes, new blood will come in, and that is fine. But who's there can be there as, the backbone of the team, the more knowledgeable one, the one that can share the knowledge. So when they leave, they can pass it on. That's how I like to look at things. Because right now, that's where I am, where I'm working with people that are significantly younger than me, coming right out of college. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Let me be a mentor. Let me be, someone that can pass on the information and not being at fear that they're going to take my job. Because if that's the case, it was ever mine. You can have it. But just giving you, some examples. And I also want you to know that being over 40, 40 plus, this is the perfect time for rediscovery. I felt like, and this is just being transparent, in my 40s, I was with a couple of hard moments, I was rediscovering myself. At this point, of my early 40s, I was 10 years in a whole new city where I actually, you know, made, concrete and put my foot down and made some roots and whatnot. Versus all I knew was New York for the first 30 years of my life. And here I am, pretty much starting over, but turning another page. And I had to sit back and say, this is a good time. Okay, now I'm here. I like it. I'm not going anywhere. My girls are good. Everybody is thriving. Let me figure out me. Did I have some highs and lows? Absolutely. But I'm at a point now, when I hit these 50s, I'm going to have some highs and lows because that's just life. But I know how to handle things, and I know where I want to be, and I know what I'm tolerating when I ain't tolerating. Okay? That's self-discovery. And fulfillment, knowing what you want in your life, what you don't want in your life. You know, we're at a time right now where we can be like, look, I'm good. I'm okay. Because I got more years behind me than I got in front of me. So I ain't wasting none of this good time I got on anything that's a headache or anything. That's called boundaries. And it's not a bad thing by any means. It's not a bad thing. And also, you're not behind. I know some of us may feel, I know I've seen videos where I may have watched ladies who are in their 20s or 30s. Oh, I feel like I'm behind in life. I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Everybody timeline is different. I can sit back and think about when I was growing up in my 20s, they were my friend group. There were folks doing things way ahead of me. And I was not even thinking about doing one fourth of what they were doing and cared less. And even when time went on, I still didn't compare myself. One thing I will say, I've always stayed in my lane when it came to career, schooling, um, dating, fashion. I've always just stayed with whatever I liked and whatever was good for me. Because when you start chasing, because you see somebody else doing something, that can be a whole nother beast nobody wants to deal with. Because keeping up with somebody else's lifestyle can be a hardship, and we don't want that. So yeah, so understand this is your prime. This is your prime. You are in your prime time. And baby, let me tell you something. I definitely will say, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back because if I go back, I won't have what I have now. Because what I went through allowed me to make the decisions that I have now. Yeah, if I go back, I probably would do things a little bit different, but I still won't have what I have now. So I definitely think about that. I think about that. But some practical steps to reinvent yourself. Let's get into some steps. There's always steps to doing things. Anything. If it steps to cooking, if it steps to, going grocery shopping, it's always a step to do something. So we're going to talk about some steps to kind of reinvent yourself. I'm all about the mind, all about the inside, because if the inside ain't good, the outside ain't nothing. So mindset shifts, understanding that, Society expectations are like this. They're thumbs down. Just embrace where you are. Don't worry about what society has going on. For me, I really like what I have going on. There's so many people in my life. I have married friends, I have married family members, I have single friends, I have single, um I'm trying to get to married, unmarried, and single friends. I have, on both ends of the spectrum. And all is good. Do I see a difference in some of the things? Absolutely. Do I see some benefits in some of the things? Absolutely. Where I am now in my life, like marriage, I feel like marriage is good for if you're raising children. I was a single mom. So raising children, if you want to be married, that's like, yeah, 'cause you want to have that two-parent household if you can, you want to do that. It doesn't make a child no difference. I know a lot of people who came from two-parent households and they are freaking menaces. So that don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. But have a good mindset shifts, and don't worry about societal expectations. You should be doing this. You should be married if you're not, or if you are married, y'all should have this together. We just worrying about us as women. You know, at this point, even if you're not at peace, you want to gain peace at this time. And you ain't worrying about all the outside activities. You're worrying about you. Exploring new interests, trying a new hobby, taking a class, starting a passion project. I mentioned in a previous episode, I'm going to write a book. I am. I'm going to start it my birthday, which is in June. And I'm just going to take my time and I'm going to do things that really make me happy. I'm going to start out doing ebooks first to kind of get my toes wet, in this arena of publishing. But it all came about my therapist, from one, my desire to want to be a social worker, and that didn't come to. And here I am, an accountant, which is not a bad career at all. But sometimes we do things because it keeps the food on the table, the bills paid, and things like that. But do things that make you feel good and pour value into yourself. You always want to put yourself first. You can always put other people first. We put our kids, we do kids, work, maybe even parents first. But sometimes you have to sit back and say, you know what? I gotta come first. And when you when you see how that feels, or feels how that feels, to put yourself first, you will never put yourself second. I'm telling you from experience. Okay. Okay. And I'm thinking about doing a candle class. So thinking about like little classes. I want to take a candle class, and I want to do a pottery class. I found one here in my area. So I'm going to definitely do that. A solo date for myself. Like, go do the candle class first. And then I'm gonna go to dinner by myself. I already have it planned out. I already have it planned out. So that's something that I'm doing. That's taking classes. And I also want to get back into Pilates and yoga. I just recently bought me a mat from Five Below because I said I ain't buying no expensive mat and I ain't going to the class. I'm going to the gym steady, but these classes I gotta be mindful. So, yeah. So now we want to upgrade, our self-care, prioritizing like our wellness, mental, emotional, and physical. And again, mention about going to the gym and doing yoga, doing things that make you feel happy, getting massages, just taking that time to pour into yourself. And I don't mean like doing maintenance work, like getting your nails done and getting your hair done. And that could be self-care depending on where you go, depending on the environment. I know my nail salon is definitely a moment where I can actually relax and chill, and the ambiance is really nice. They have a bar in there. It's like really, cute. But I don't look at that as self care. That's maintenance to me. Self care for me is going to the gym, starting this yoga, uh, getting a massage, um, going to this pottery class. Those are things that I consider like self-care, because you're really doing something intentional for yourself. For yourself, and it looks different for everyone. Everyone's self-care is different. Somebody might not think going to a pottery class is self-care, because they like you're doing something, but you put in your mind and you're holding something and you're molding something and you're being very intentional and you're pouring into yourself. You're making something for yourself, if that makes any sense. Um, building connections, surrounding yourself with inspiring and like-minded women. And I really, really, really am happy at what I'm doing now. I really feel like when in my younger years and even like in my 30s, I definitely have girlfriends, but the how do you say it? The magnitude of the relationship, differed, depending on who is the friend, stuff like that. And I feel like now, me in my late 40s, approaching 50s, I want a different type of friendship. You know, I don't want any high expectations. I'm there, you're there. But I don't want no unrealistic expectations, and I don't want anything to be uncommunicated expectations. I don't want things to be like, well, you should have. I don't want that. I feel like I'm at a place right now where it's like, look, you have a life, I have a life. We're there, we do things, and we're not holding it to each other to the point where it's like, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. My kids are grown. I can't do it. I can't. But no, I've had some really good relationships that I've built throughout the years, especially in these last 3 to 5 years. I've met some amazing women. And to be honest, a lot of women came from here. A lot of women came from the internet. And I really feel like when you speak, you find people who relate to you, because I've met so many different women here, and I met women when I first started. Prime example, Lori. We met when we both first started on YouTube about 12, 13 years ago, and we met about 2 years ago, and it was like we was friends for over a decade, but we just finally met. And even like now, she'll call my phone, I'll call her phone, and it's like nothing. That's where I am. I want ease and comfort. I want ease and comfort. So like I said, surround yourself with like-minded and inspiring women. And I find myself doing that now. Um, Even in certain women groups that I'm in and things like that, I find myself being inspired, motivated, and uplifted. And I'm doing the same because, again, like I mentioned, you can't expect somebody to pour into you and you don't pour into them. And that's something I had to learn later on in life. And some things about even not even knowing how heavy you can be on some person. I'm sharing a little bit here in my life. So I know we're talking about reinventing ourselves, but I'm trying to be a little bit transparent here as well, as how you can grow in your life. But we'll get into that later about being heavy on people. We'll talk about that later. But creating new goals, whether if it's career goals, personal goals, or lifestyle goals. And I'm at a time right now where I want to do things in my life that's going to provide value, not just to myself, but to others. Because when you help, no matter how it is, it will fuel you indirectly. It will fuel you indirectly. I'm so serious. Okay. Um, I experienced it, myself. I'm not saying it's not for everyone, but you know, creating new goals and set an action on them. You know, saying, okay, well, if I do this, I can have that. Or if I do this, I can do this, things like that. It's just pretty much knowing where you want to be and making some steps for that. If you know you want to get a new career, you want to change careers, how are you going to set yourself up and position yourself in a way that you can get a new career? And there's nothing wrong with getting a new career and changing in your 40s and beyond, because sometimes that can help us be more vibrant. Sometimes staying stuck and stagnant in a position for 30, 40 years, nothing wrong with that, because my mom did that. Times were different back then when it came to the boomers, and even you got the early Gen Xers. Times was different. I know for me, I need to explore and grow. That keeps me rejuvenated on the inside. I don't know if I can ride out something for a long period of time. Maybe if it's in the same company, same division, or same department, and you just move around. But I need variety when it comes to career because that helps me learn as well. That helps me learn in my in my opinion, helps me learn. So embracing life after 40 with confidence. You know, my experience, how I started embracing myself is just the fact that I see myself aging. You know what I mean? I may look the same in some sense. My face is my face, but I see gray hairs. I see, little fine lines in my face. Not nothing too crazy, but I do see like smile. I'm looking in the mirror. I see smile lines and things like that. I see changes in my body. I got a hysterectomy recently. A year, this April will be a year. So your body is changing, but I just accept it. And I accept it and I embrace it. And it allows me to be the best woman that I can be at this time in my life. Just for myself, but for my daughters. You know what I mean? They're watching me grow and they're watching me embrace myself so they can do that for themselves as they age. You know what I mean? They got more years, in front of them than they do behind them. But by them seeing their mother living her best life, taking care of herself, prioritizing different things in her life. If it's my career, my health, they're like, oh, okay, I gotta do the same thing if I wanna live and look like mommy and, have abundance, you know, in all areas, and just be unapologetic, be happy. You know what I mean? Whatever your desires are, just like live it out. Like, who cares at this point? People are going to judge you and talk about you regardless. And if they're going to do that, give them a good reason. Because let me tell you something. A lot of people wish they can do what you do. Wish. I know a lot of people that sit and tell me, oh, Kelly, I wish I could do this. You do that, X, Y, and Z. Do it. Do whatever makes you happy, whatever floats your boat, your desires, and everything. This is your life. You can write your own story. You know, this is the time. This is what you call reinvention, pouring into yourself. Okay. And last but not least, celebrating your small wins and just being patient with the process. We don't want to let time pass us by, but we want to be patient with ourselves. We don't want to rush nothing because sometimes when you rush, you miss things. And that's in anything. That can be in the growth of yourself, that can be in relationships, that can be in careers, that can just be going to the grocery store, rushing to the grocery store, and you wind up tripping on something. Now we over 40, we can't be tripping and falling. We can't be doing that. But no, seriously, ladies, this is just some little key points I want to share with you in regards to, reinventing yourself and knowing that life is not over when it comes to your 40s. And you can do so much more. You can do so much more and have so much more. Do not let your age stop you by any means. Okay. So let's recap. We talked about the power of reinvention, the practical steps of reinventing yourself, in addition to embracing your life with confidence over 40. And also, just living your best years out, living your best years out. And I just want to say, ladies, I just truly appreciate you being here with me on these platforms as we share and age together. Because sometimes, as a content creator, you can sit back and want to appeal to everybody. And sometimes you can't. You can't. And I've been on these internet street, social media, and these platforms for over a decade. And I've come to realize, you have to do things that really make you feel good, but yet do things that can also provide value. And that's where we are now. So I thank you for allowing me to pour into you while I pour into myself. And I will catch you in the next episode. Don't forget to follow on all platforms. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and follow. And I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, y'all.